From Michael Jordan to Tiger Woods, celebrities have a real bad habit of being super reckless with their money. So here are some of the times celebrities lost massive bets. Let's get right into it. Starting off with the most recent one of all. It's when Drake lost $400,000 on Jake Paul to KO Tommy Fury. Drake should seriously consider quitting his side hustle as a sports bettor. The rapper has a habit of throwing his support behind his favorite teams or fighters.
Ever since I left the city, you got a reputation for yourself now.
And unfortunately for him, they almost always lose. It's kind of a running joke, something everyone calls the Drake curse. Unsurprisingly, it all went south when he recently backed Jake Paul with a hefty sum. Now, on the surface, you might think this isn't such a big deal. After all, Jake Paul's fights have been a bit questionable, with skeptics wondering whether his opponents are giving their all. But here's the thing, Tommy Fury was his next opponent, and he's not just anyone.
Tommy TNT Fury!
Despite not being as renowned as his half-brother Tyson, Fury is a pro boxer who has won actual boxing matches before. Compare that to Paul, who's fought a YouTuber,
Time to time, just every bit.
a retired NBA player, a retired MMA fighter with no boxing experience, and the list goes on. Meanwhile, Fury is a young fighter with an impressive record of 8 wins, 4 of them by knockout. So for Drake to bet a whopping $400,000 on Paul actually knocking out a real boxer was a bit of a stretch, to say the least. Maybe Drake was just following his heart, but his wallet definitely paid the price.
You made me feel like I did you wrong, going places where you don't belong.
Up next, did you know that the GOAT of basketball arguably has a gambling addiction? That's right, let's talk about Michael Jordan. Let's take a trip down memory lane to 1991, when Michael Jordan and a San Diego businessman named Richard Esquinas allegedly faced off in a golf match. It cost Jordan a whopping $1.25 million.
That's Michael Jordan on board.
Now, we don't have any source to confirm this other than a book from 1993 titled Michael and Me, Our Gambling Addiction, My Cry for Help. But according to Esquinas, these two went head-to-head at the Aviara golf course in San Diego. Esquinas claimed that their matches were always high-stakes affairs. There were putts worth up to $100,000 and occasional swings of over $250,000. He thought he had his gambling under control until he went berserk with Jordan in September 1991.
There's no way I can get comfortable to hit a 50-yard shot or a 100-yard shot. Not with all these people. At first, Esquinas was potentially more than $200,000 in debt, but things quickly turned around, and he found himself $1.25 million ahead. Jordan, on the other hand, wasn't as lucky. Esquinas claimed that the basketball legend fell $626,000 in debt from their golf wagers and then doubled down and lost again. But fear not, Jordan fans, as he managed to reduce the debt to $902,000 by making more golf wagers. I hate losing. I mean, it's not even a question. But I have to respect losing, because losing is a part of winning.
Esquinas eventually settled for $300,000, possibly because he was afraid Jordan wouldn't pay the full amount. Whether or not this story's true, it's certainly a juicy tale that adds to the legend of Michael Jordan's competitive spirit. Who knew he had such a passion for golf and gambling? Speaking of golf and goats with gambling addictions, the GOAT of golf deserves a spot on this list too. Tiger Woods.
Curled it in. Third birdie of the day for Tiger Woods.
Now, we all know that Tiger Woods is a top-notch golfer, but did you know he also has a bit of a gambling problem? Yep, it's true. Apparently, he once lost a whopping $25,000 on a single bet while playing blackjack. And get this, rumor has it that he has a $1 million betting limit at a certain Las Vegas casino. That's some serious cash. It seems like when the cameras are turned off, Tiger's behavior can be a bit out of control. And unfortunately, his gambling problem has caused some issues in the past. With all of this in mind, it's not hard to imagine that his gambling habits might continue to be a problem for him. But hey, who are we to judge?
And compete with one player that wasn't even born when you're right. There was a 4.
Maybe he's just trying to add some excitement to his already thrilling life on the golf course. Moving on, the next person on this list is none other than Liza Minnelli's ex-husband, David Guest.
She has 2 daughters she named after the planets. One's named Venus Hertz, and one's named Uranus hurts.
Oh boy, have you heard about David Guest? The former Mr. Liza Minnelli was quite the gambler, and not in a good way. Apparently, he spent his last days playing slot machines all over the UK and was dropping up to $14,000 a day. Yikes! One casino even managed to take nearly $150,000 from him in just 1 year. To make matters worse, his production company ended up racking up $700,000 in debt due to his gambling habits. And by the time he passed away at the age of 62, his personal fortune was down to a measly $8,000. But hey, at least some good might come out of this tragic situation. The David Guest case has prompted more fruit machines and bingo players to switch to playing bingo with PayPal. With the restrictions put in place by some of these sites, it's easier to keep your spending in check. So maybe, just maybe, something positive can come out of this whole mess.
Life is not a cabaret when you think it is, okay?
Now, the next person on this list is also known as the president of the UFC. That's right, it's Dana White.
We got to go in and learn how to wrestle.
Put me in, coach.
He had one heck of a winning streak in May 2014. He scored a massive $2 million over 3 months playing high-stakes blackjack at the Palms in Las Vegas. But as the saying goes, what happens in Vegas doesn't always stay in Vegas.
Excuse me. For 30 minutes.
My fake wrestling punch was way better than his fake wrestling punch.
The casino wasn't thrilled with White's winning ways and cut his credit line in half, limiting his table play to $5,000 per hand. The Palms eventually banned him from blackjack altogether, but this wasn't the first time they had to put the brakes on White's gambling. A couple of years earlier, they had done the same thing, and White retaliated by boycotting the casino and moving UFC fights to a different venue. However, the icy relationship between White and the Palms started to thaw when a new CEO took over and removed White's blackjack limits. To sweeten the deal, they even sent him a fancy $5,000 bottle of wine and a championship belt reading Palms Undisputed Blackjack Champion.
Jose, it's a 20-minute show. Let's get drunk. Yeah, Jose. Yeah. Yeah, shot.
White responded by stating that UFC events would still be held at the Palms, but in the end, only 3 more fights were hosted there. It seems like even a championship belt couldn't keep the UFC president at the blackjack tables. Finally, let's wrap up this video with one more famous gambling addict, Charles Barkley.
He has what I call the heart of a champion. He always played to win.
The NBA legend, known for his baller moves on the court, also had a serious gambling problem. He may be the only one out of 14 NBA players to have more jerseys retired, but he lost most of the millions he made during his 16-year-long career to his love for gambling. He didn't think he had a problem until he blew a whopping $20 million in the casinos. Yep, you heard that right. Let me say it again. $20 million. One Las Vegas casino even sued him for $400,000 in unpaid gambling debt, but he eventually paid it back. After that close call, Barkley started to invest less in his gambling addiction and kept things under control. And so far, he's been keeping it in check, thankfully. And that's all for some times celebrities lost really massive bets.
Looks like Boss Rutan. Midlife crisis.